I've driven all across the US, and I've never once seen a sign for I-50 or I-60 because they don't exist. To figure out why those roads don't exist, we need to roll back the clock. Before the interstate highway system, America had the US highway system. The numbering had a basic logic. Odd numbers ran north to south, and they increased from east to west. Even numbers ran east to west and increased from north to south. So US 1 runs along the east coast, while US 101 hugs the west coast. And in between, you had roads like US 50, which stretches coast to coast, US 66, which runs from Chicago to LA, and US 60, which runs from Arizona to Virginia. This system worked great until cars, trucks, and traffic started to boom post-World War II. Enter President Dwight D. Eisenhower. He'd seen Germany's Autobahn system firsthand, how it helped move troops quickly and efficiently. He realized that America needed something similar. So in 1956, Congress passed the Federal Aid Highway Act, which launched the creation of the Interstate Highway System. Interstate highways follow strict design rules. First off, every highway in the interstate system is designated by the red, white, and blue sign. A minimum of 2 lanes in each direction, 12-foot wide lanes with shoulders, limited access, which means no stoplights or cross traffic, and interchanges that are grade separated, which means there are ramps and overpasses that you can't just walk onto the freeway from a surface street. And speed limits. They're typically set between 55 and 75 miles per hour depending on location. The national numbering system. So we had to establish one that wouldn't conflict with the U.S. highways already in place. So here's how the interstates are numbered. Even numbers run east to west. Odd numbers run north to south. But unlike the U.S. highway system, they decided to change it. So the east-west highways increase in number from south to north. I-10 running along the southern border, going from Santa Monica to Jacksonville, while I-94 hugs the northern U.S. The north-south highways, interstates, now increase from west to east. So I-5 hugs the west coast from the Mexico border to the Canada border, while I-95 hugs the east coast. Major interstates are either 1 or 2 digits and end in numbers divisible by 5, so 0 or 5. These are the big cross-country routes: I-10, I-40, I-70, 80, and 90. And then we've got the north-south routes that go across the country: I-5, 15, 35, 75, 95, just as examples. Routes that don't end in 0 or 5, like I-17 in Phoenix or I-29 through Kansas City, Missouri, are considered minor interstates, often shorter or more regional. And that brings us back to our mystery. Why no I-50 or I-60? Because US 50 and US 60 already exist. To avoid confusion, especially when 2 similar routes might run parallel in the same region, the numbers 50 and 60 were skipped entirely from the interstate list. Now, what about 3-digit interstates? So, to make it absolutely clear, just because a highway is called an interstate doesn't mean it actually runs into multiple states. And we unofficially call these intrastate highways, though they are officially part of the interstate highway system with all the standards I've already detailed. Here are the general rules for 3-digit interstates. The last 2 digits tell you which main interstate they branch off from. So in my Southern California examples, we've got the 405, which goes from the 5 in the Newhall Pass all the way down to South Orange County. There's the 710 that starts at the 10 San Bernardino Freeway and goes down to Long Beach. And there's the 605, which intersects with I-5. Another reason why I was always confused about these namings in Southern California. But technically, for a 3-digit interstate, the first digit tells you if it's a loop or a spur. If it's even, it's a loop. It reconnects to the same highway. If it's odd, it's a spur. It dead ends in a city or business district. Southern California is certainly not the only place with exceptions to this rule. There's I-495, which is the Long Island Expressway in New York that branches off of 95 and goes all the way out through Long Island and never returns. Other states seem to have done a lot better with the rules than New York and California. I-275 in Tampa, that's a loop around Tampa Bay, which links back to I-75. I-195 in Rhode Island, that's a spur connecting Providence to Cape Cod. And a fun fact, some 3-digit numbers exist in multiple states. I-295, for example, exists in New Jersey, Florida, and Maine. I-405 exists in Southern California and in the state of Washington. Not every highway follows the rules, and I'm certainly not going to have time to name all of these exceptions, but just for a few. I-99 in Pennsylvania was created out of sequence, placed between I-79 and I-81, but it was numbered purely due to a political push from a local congressman. I-238 in California doesn't even make sense. There's no I-38, so how can there be a 238? It's a leftover from when California State Route 238 was upgraded to interstate status, and they didn't want to renumber everything around it. Follow us, leave a review, and please share this episode if you found it useful. Drive smart, drive safe, and I'll see you on the road.